Okay, so in this video, we're going to be taking our portal up a notch. Right now, we're getting to see some of the benefits here of using this toggle. It's showing this portal. And what we're going to be doing is creating sort of a modal or a full screen takeover type of component. Now, this component, I'm going to stress right now, is going to be ugly in this iteration of it. We're going to make it all kinds of better in the next few videos. But for right now, it's going to be sort of shockingly ugly. We're just going for functionality here, okay? So what we want to do is head to our code once again. And what we want to do is create a new component, a new file, and this is just going to be modal.js, okay? And we're going to see really the true power of this sort of portal that we made in the last video, where we can do an RCC to create a new component. All right, so we're going to create a React component here. We're going to give this a new name of Modal. It's going to extend normal component, and we're once again going to import our portal. So we're going to import portal from, and again, this is like just stressing how reusable and useful this portal is. Portal, and we can use it for all sorts of things. Anything we need to sort of put into another part of our site, especially modals, right? Modals, alerts, that kind of thing. Okay, so we have our portal here. Let's go ahead and now have our full screen takeover code. Now, the first thing I want to do in this is actually create some components. Now, I'm a big fan of styled components. If you like to have CSS and JavaScript or CSS and CSS any other way, by all means, use your preferred method. In this series, we're going to be using styled components. I'm going to go ahead and have a new command line window here. We're going to change into this project, cd React projects. I'm going to do yarn, add, and then styled components. Okay, now in this component, we are going to import styled from styled components. So we're going to import styled from styled components. If I can spell today, okay? Very good. Okay, we're going to import styled from styled components. Down here, we can do a const, and we'll call this modal wrapper, and modal wrapper is going to be equal to styled.div. We're going to have some backticks here, and this style.div is simply just going to go ahead and get some properties here. We're going to give this a position absolute. Okay, we're going to give this a top 0. We're going to give this a left of 0. We're going to give this a width of 100%. We're going to give this a height of 100%, and that should be pretty good. Okay, we can take this modal wrapper now and throw it inside of our portal, okay, like this. Okay, and we have our modal wrapper. Now, again, this is going to be positioned absolutely on top of everything. In fact, to sort of confirm this, let's go ahead and actually give this a background color as well, not backface visibility, but a background, and we'll give this a background color of teal. I mean, why not, right? I always love to use these default colors when sort of prototyping things, just because they're so ugly. They're so good and ugly. Okay, inside of this modal, again, we're just going to go ahead and say, hi, I'm in a modal. Okay, and again, this modal wrapper is just position absolute, so this H1's just going to be hanging out in there. Okay, so that was sort of fast and furious, but what we did is we created a portal, we have a modal wrapper, and we now have our modal wrapper CSS. So let's head into our app.js and let's add our modal, not mortal, import modal from ./modal. Okay, now in this case, we can just go ahead and throw this modal component in here as it is. We can go ahead and just say modal. Self-close this thing, and what we should see is a giant teal thing on top of everything, right? Just sort of resting on top of our entire project. Now, this is obviously not that sort of exciting, but it's cool that we were able to put something positioned absolutely on everything here. So let's go ahead and once again transform this component into something a bit more useful here. We have our modal wrapper here, and inside of our modal wrapper, instead of saying, hi, I'm a modal, okay, let's actually do something a little bit better here. We're going to go have this be a this.props.children, okay? And once again, we're going to be able to use this to, well, output the children, and therefore we need to actually put stuff into the children of this modal more like this, where we can just say, once again, still in modal, okay? And now at this point, again, we should see still in modal just on sitting on top of everything. Nothing crazy there. We're simply just swapping out, and now we're using this modal as a wrapper. Now, the great thing, again, is that this modal is taking care of the portalness of it all, so we don't even have to bother with a portal, right? Okay, so we have this still in modal. Now, obviously, what we like to have in a modal is something to close it and something to open it. So let's go ahead and use our toggle, right? We have this toggle here. It's closing and opening things. That's all in good. Let's go ahead and remove everything from our toggle. And let's go ahead and throw this modal into a toggle. Okay, now with this modal into a toggle, what I want to actually do is pass in both the on is equal to on, and I want to pass in the toggle is equal to toggle. Okay, because even though we want to output this still in modal, I want to actually have a button to close this toggle on every single modal. Okay, so let's go ahead and head back to our modal with now our toggle passing in this stuff. Notice how I'm not using the on property at all in this current app.js file. If we head to modal here, we can now destructure out some of our stuff. We can do const, and let's do children. Let's do toggle, and let's do on. And we're going to have those equal to this dot props. Now we can remove this dot props from children, right? We have this here. Let's actually space this out a little bit more like here. And let's go ahead and put this in a div for now. That will be changing at some point. And up top here, we're going to have a button. And this button, which is not auto-completing button, is going to be a close button. And now this close button is going to have an on click, and we're going to on-click it. We're going to run our toggle. Because we're passing in our toggle from our toggle, we now have access to the same toggle function, which will eventually turn and show this modal. Now, because we have access to the toggle and we have access to on, we can also use on to once again wrap this like this. Now, if I move this down here, okay. Now, I'm moving lines, by the way. If you don't move lines in VS Code, all I'm doing is with the line selected, I'm holding the Option key and hitting up and down arrows. If you do this, you can move one line. And if you were to hold the Shift key while doing it, you copy that line. So it's a really useful keyboard shortcut to have in your repertoire here. Okay, so check it out. This should be seeming very, very nice right now, because now we have a modal component that's reusable. It's always going to have a close attached to it. So again, you can fire off this close on every single modal, and it's always going to output the children. Now, granted, they're in a div right now, but we'll take care of that in a minute. And if we head to app.js, well, the next thing we need to do is have something to toggle this. Now, we've already used fragments once. You remember we've already imported it here. So we can go ahead and do something like fragment, okay? And we can have this be fragment. And we're going to want to have a button in here that will toggle this thing on. So button, and this button will be open. And we could just have this be, maybe let's actually make this something more applicable. We can have this be login. This is going to be a login button that triggers a login modal. On click is equal to toggle. So just like this, one of the cool things about this whole thing is you could take this entire toggle, you could take this entire bit, and you could put this anywhere in your site. This could be in the footer, this could be the header, it doesn't matter. And no matter what you do, all it's going to do is output a button. When you click that button, it's going to trigger a modal that takes place somewhere else on the site. Really fantastic. If we head back here, we see our login button, and if we click this, boom, still in a modal is popping up, and we get this lovely close button. There we go. Login, close, and this is brilliant. We're doing all of this without any sort of state management library. We're doing this without any sort of context API, and to be honest, any of those things would probably make this less clean. So this code right now is excellent, and we have this modal here. Now, there are a ton of ways that we can make this better. In fact, in the next video, we're going to be taking this up a notch using some styled components to start styling this and build a really nice looking modal window here. And then eventually we're going to get into some cool animation stuff. I'm going to be talking about a library called React Spring. We're going to be using React Spring to animate on some things. We're going to get into a lot of fun stuff, a lot of different React techniques in this series. So keep watching as we keep building out some more and more useful components. As always, this is Scott with Level Up Tutorials. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.